5:34 here. The Pentagon says they caught the Kremlin in a lie, releasing new video showing a Russian jet was to blame for the downing of an American military drone. When the incident happened, Russia blamed the U.S. But in this video, apparently it appears that the Russian jet deliberately targeted the drone. Russia is denying those claims this morning, but all of this news comes as the Chinese president is visiting Russia today in a show of support. Joining us from Washington, D.C. to unpack the latest developments, reporter Doug Luzader for us in Washington, D.C. this morning. Doug, it's good to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Wow. I mean, we've had recent run-ins, as we talked about with China, that whole weather balloon incident, and now we're learning that the Chinese president is going to be visiting Russia. This all feels deliberate. I mean, how could this erode relations even further?
Well, speaking just of the visit of Xi Jinping to Russia, China's foreign ministry says this was at the invitation of Russia, that this is about friendship and peace. Of course, there's a concern here in Washington that this will ultimately lead to China supplying weapons, lethal materials to Russia to help in their war effort in Ukraine. Now, the Pentagon says that hasn't happened yet, but they're on the lookout for it. It's not clear what the response from the United States would be should that happen, but there is this alliance between the U.S. and China that's going to be, between Russia and China that's going to be reinforced by this meeting.
You know, Doug, I want to get to this video as well, because we've talked about the video showing that Russia targeted this U.S. drone. What do we know about that video that gave them that specific impression that this wasn't some kind of accident?
Well, they're not ruling out an accident, and the Pentagon's pretty clear on that point. I mean, they've made it clear that Russia was trying to harass this drone. At one point, there was, by all indications, an actual impact. Now Russia says you can't see the actual impact in the video because of the angle that it's shooting at, but it's clear that at one point the fighter jet passes very close, and then all of a sudden you see the bent propeller on the drone. So it seems pretty evident what happened there. Was it an accident, though? The Pentagon is leaving open that possibility. They think that in the process of harassing that drone, that it may have been an accidental strike by the Russian pilot. But regardless, to even be that close was clearly a provocation on the part of the Russians.
It sure feels like it. I mean, when we talk about this relationship between the U.S. and Russia, what do you think happens next now?
Well, so much depends on what happens in Ukraine. You know, the Ukraine has really become kind of a proxy war between the U.S. and other, NATO-allied nations and Russia. Now, how far Russia is going to take this may depend on what happens on the ground there. There have been some efforts to begin peace talks, but there's no indication those are really gaining much traction. And in many regards, this has become kind of a stalemate there on the ground, but it's kind of a war of attrition there in Ukraine, and it's not clear right now what the end game is going to be.
Man, we've got a lot to track here. Doug, as always, we appreciate you being there for us. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
You too.